Hey guys, it's Ally, and in today's video, I wanted to talk about some dolls in my personal collection that I forget exist, or I just never really use. Now, I made a video like this, actually 2 parts of it, a few months ago, just talking about general American Girl dolls that I forget exist. And I'm sure there will be a little bit of overlap between ones that American Girl as a whole has released that I forget exist, and then the ones in my personal collection that I forget exist. I love my dolls, I've spent a lot of money on my dolls, so admitting that there are some dolls that I do often forget about is something that's really sad for me. But I think it's a matter of some dolls that are older in my collection just aren't as exciting as they once were. The new dolls have definitely taken over, or maybe there's a feature about them that leads me to just like not touch them or use them as much. So that's what we're talking about today. I do love all of these dolls. If I truly didn't love them, I would be selling them. This is just kind of a reminder for myself to use these dolls more. So without further ado, let's get into the video. The first doll that I'm going to be talking about is Becca. Now, Becca is a Truly Me 39 who was originally my sister's doll and my sister's lookalike, but my sister literally just got bangs, so they don't even look alike anymore. But then about a year ago, I think, I ended up just deciding to swap her wig for a beautifully custom one because I thought maybe that would get me to use 39 more. And I think the reason I just never really connected with her is because she was never my doll to begin with. So I was never really eyeing 39. I never had a reason to get her, but I will say she has the most stunning blue eyes, and she's also one of the oldest dolls in my collection. My sister got her the same time I got my first doll, so they're both from 2014, and she's just very much faded into the background compared to my other dolls. She's a beautiful doll, and I really need to take photos of her more, but I just don't think I've ever really connected with her. Next is Julie, and Julie is a very similar story to Becca. She was originally my sister's doll, and I ended up inheriting her into my collection. Now, she has not been customized, but I ended up swapping her body with the body from a 25 that I got secondhand, so not Victoria in my collection, but Rory, just because I liked the way that Julie's body looked better and I wanted to get myself to use Rory more, so I figured swapping her body into one I liked a bit more, that was a bit newer, would make her look cuter in clothing. I'm not gonna really elaborate too much on like different types of doll bodies, but I noticed a big difference between the two, and it affected how the dolls looked when they were wearing clothing. So because I took a body I didn't like and put it on Julie, it's made me use her even less. Because before I did that, she kind of just sat on my shelf and she was used a lot as a model when I would do my sewing, but she's just sat around. I've just never really connected with her once again because she was never my doll, but she is really pretty. But I don't know, I've just never really been drawn to Julie, and I think me swapping the body kind of seals the deal that she's just sitting, not necessarily collecting dust, but she definitely doesn't get used that much, and I wish I used her more, but she's been overshadowed as well because she was one of the earlier dolls in my collection. Now we're gonna jump a little bit in terms of my collecting history, and we're gonna talk about Ryan. Ryan is my Gabriella doll who I actually got in 2018 and not 2017, and I think I got her on sale. So the fact that I got her on sale made her a bit more of like an impulse doll rather than one that I had been eyeing for a while. But back when she was a Truly Me, I definitely liked her, but I don't think she was ever really a dream doll for me that I was like, I have to get this doll. The reason I often forget Ryan exists is multiple things. If you've watched any All My Dolls video, you would know this little story. Right when I got her, like the second time I ever took photos of her, she ended up face planting onto some cement and getting a scuff on her nose. So I tried fixing it as best as I could with micro mesh, but for that first while, I just never really used her because looking at her kind of made me depressed because of her nose. And obviously you can Photoshop that out, no problem, but you know, it still made me sad. So a few years later, I look at Ryan and I don't even really see any evidence of the scar or the repair job, but I think the fact that I never really connected with her right off the bat because of that fall and me not wanting to use her has kind of continued into even several years later, where I just am never really drawn to her because I never really had that initial connection with her. I think the other reason I don't really use Ryan that much is because of her hair. Now, her hair is beautiful, but I'm not really going to be braiding it like I would with other dolls that have straighter hair or wavier hair. I don't really want to go through and have to redo every single one of those curls if I'm mess up her hairstyle. With me not really touching her hair, it just unfortunately means that she sits on the shelf a lot, which is fine because I do consider myself a collector, but sometimes I do forget about her because I don't use her and style her hair as much as I do with other dolls. And of course, there are definitely hairstyles you can do on really curly hair like that. So just to summarize, the fact that I'm like kind of scared to touch her hair and then I just never really connected with her right off the bat because of the nose fall is why I often forget about Ryan. But she is beautiful. I'm staring at her on my shelf right now. Now this is a doll I kind of debated throwing on this list, but that is Kiona, who is my Kaya doll. Now I love Kaya and I will always be like, get a Kaya doll if you don't have one. I can't necessarily think of a specific reason why I forget she exists. I definitely just don't use her as much as I do with my other dolls. She sits on the shelf a lot. Maybe it's because her hair is really long, so I never really feel like going through and brushing and styling it when I want to take photos. Maybe she's just been overshadowed by the newer dolls. I can't necessarily pinpoint the reason why I forget she exists, but like, I just don't use her as much as I should. Next is Devin. Oh, Devin. We have a lot of history. So she is a Addie doll who I got from the benefit sale, and I mainly got her from the benefit sale as not necessarily a complete impulse decision, but she was only $30 with her meat outfit, and I could not pass up that opportunity. So I ended up getting Devin, even though she was never really one of my dream dolls. So a little bit less connected right off the bat. And because I got her for so cheap, I was like, why don't I try doing a wig swap for the first time? So I swapped her wig to the beautifully custom one that Becca is currently wearing, and I just never really loved it, probably because Addie has a more cool toned skin and the wig was more warm toned, so it never really looked good together, especially in photos. Then for a while I put her back in Addie's regular wig, and now I have her in this burgundy one from Doll of a Kind, which definitely looks better because it's a cool toned wig on cool toned skin. But if I'm completely honest, I'm still not 100% happy with how she looks in that wig. So I think because I've never really been able to find her for a forever wig, that's probably why I don't use her as much, because I haven't found one that just like complements her perfectly and makes me want to photograph her. And it's really sad because she is such a cute doll. I love her hoop earrings, but I don't know. I just have never been 100% happy with the wig that I put on her. And then a lot of the times when you use a wig that's not American Girl, they're very thick, which is something that a lot of people love, including myself when it comes to like the visuals, but that also tends to make dolls top heavy, so it's a bit harder for me to stand up my dolls for photos and videos. So that's another reason I think that I don't really use my dolls with custom wigs as often, just because they're more top heavy. Next is Rory, and she is my custom 25 with eyes from Beautifully Custom and a wig from Doll of a Kind. Now her wig is still thick because it's a custom wig, but it definitely is not as long or thick as my other custom doll wigs, so she doesn't fall over as easily. I think the reason I often forget about Rory is because the original body she came with wasn't really to my liking. It was very, very top heavy around the bust, and it could be from how I restuffed the body when I tightened her limbs, I don't know, but I just never really liked the way she looked in what I put her in. Now, a few months ago, as I said earlier, I did give her Julie's body, which I like a lot more, but I still haven't found myself wanting to use Rory all the time. She's a really stunning doll, and every time I look at her, I'm like, wow, she's beautiful. But I think the combination of her being, I guess, a secondhand doll, but I'm more connected to some other secondhand dolls, so I don't really know. And like the whole me not using her for a long time because of her body issue has made me just kind of forget she exists. But I need to take photos of her more, need to use her in more thumbnails because she really is a pretty doll. And she's also kind of been overshadowed because I did get a lot of dolls around the time that I got Rory, so she's definitely been overshadowed. Next is Ruthie. Now, once again, I don't fully know the reason why I forget she exists. I think it's because I got other dolls at the same time, similar to Rory, and I just used them more. I believe I got Kanani at the same time, and of course, you're gonna be all excited that you got Kanani compared to Ruthie, which I still love Ruthie. I was super excited when I got her because I did a recreation of Geek Charming, which I was super pumped for, but I feel like nowadays I often forget that I have Ruthie, and I just haven't used her as much as I have my other dolls. And I don't know why. I love her gray eyes. I really just gotta take more photos of her, honestly, and she's gotta be in more thumbnails. And I think those are all of the dolls I'm going to talk about in this video. There were a few others that I debated putting on this list, such as Suri, because she is a custom doll who I also got secondhand, so I don't feel like I use her all the time, but I also use her more than the other dolls on the list, so I don't know. Also, Aaron, truly mean number 76 because he is a boy doll and my only boy doll. So because he's my only boy doll, I remember him for specific projects like if I do a stop motion or a recreation. But in my day-to-day life, he doesn't really get that much love because I can't really do that much with his hair and I don't have as many clothing options for him. But yeah, those are pretty much the dolls that unfortunately I often tend to forget about in my collection. So if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below if you think there's any dolls in your collection that you often forget exist and possibly why, because I'm very curious if other collectors, especially if you have a large collection, have the same issue. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for more American Girl videos, and of course, have an amazing day, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye!